Tell you what, man, I played a few places, but there's nowhere I'd rather be than right here. With the people that I work with who love me, it feels great.
Being in like 6th grade and going over to my next door neighbor, Galen's house, kid next door, and I like walked into his room and he's like, here, check this out. And he put on this, he had found his older brother's tape of Led Zeppelin 2 and he was like, put it on. Side A, first song, Whole Lotta Love. And like this pocket opened in like space-time, like it was totally outside of anything that had been around. And I took the boombox on the bus and like put the tape in, sat at the very back of the bus, put the boombox on top of the seat and like turned it all the way up and like hit play, or like playing A Lot of Love out to the bus, you know. And then we did the same thing again at recess, just cranked as loud as we could, and it just felt so cool. Like it really did. It felt like there was like suddenly there was this available space to occupy that was completely outside of the realm of anything that had been offered to us.
Something to come along, it'll be worthwhile. Look at myself today. Look at my selfish ways.
And I think like, I don't know what age, like 13 or something, my friend George Dixon brought this like blue Fender Stratocaster to orchestra, and it was like, looking back, like I think that was the beginning of the end. Like it was like electric guitar slowly took over all my other interests. That's the other thing I noticed too. Like when I went to LA, like that was what made me interesting to people. Was like, oh, this viola player from this little island. It's almost kind of like how I imagine like what somebody loves about like their partner or whatever, some like dorky little thing that person maybe isn't even aware of, like that's just so endearing, where like if you knew about it, you'd probably try to change it because you were like self-conscious about it. But it made me realize that like that, you know, that cultural aspect of, you know, growing up here is like a lot more important than I expected. And like being really aware of like coastal Indian art a lot growing up, and like we'd take field trips and stuff, and like I got really into Raven. It was when we had an extracurricular thing, we learned to make drums, and they like brought rawhide and everything. We like learned how to tie these drums, and so I chose for the image for my drum this like a crow looking at itself in the water that I'd found some image, you know, sort of had that. I always liked the like trickster component to Raven, and like never really thought about that. And then like years later, I just always kind of liked Crows and Ravens, and I was trying to come up with a name for a band. And I actually think it's kind of a liability to have your technical vocabulary overshadow your emotional vocabulary. I guess I don't really feel like I've ever really like written. There's maybe been like 1 or 2 times where I've sat down like I will now write a song. Like I feel like a lot of times when I'm writing music, there will be a physical place that will pop into my mind, like a very specific sort of like, you know, looking at a certain spot. This is why I come out here, just inspiration. Because it's the Puget Sound, you know. It's like sound, the water and the rocks. And I like rock music, so I like the idea of Raven and Crow as like the walker between the worlds, that kind of looking at the shadow. Because to me, I don't like how crows are like always associated with like death and everything, like in Hollywood and everything. I feel like there's always like a funeral, there's like crows, there's like that kind of horror movie aesthetic that I'm really not into, but I really like the, you know, native and coastal Raven stories and stuff. I feel like there is this sort of lost kind of thing where we're wanting to like self-initiate. I have a friend who was talking about like festivals and concerts as being like the only sort of initiatory place for like kids and stuff. That kids are like trying to self-initiate. You know, they're going to festivals or concerts, taking drugs, like trying to push that envelope, because we don't have initiation. We don't have, it's just kind of like you just go out into the world and, you know.
And underneath it all, we slow